This is Nitya Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 1027. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, on all the podcast platforms. So fans, please tune in. We are joined by a really special guest. He is the GOAT of the NFL. His name is Coach Mike Westhoff. He's a former special teams coach in the NFL and one of the best in NFL history, man. He had a great career as a coach. He coached with the Jets and a lot of different teams, and he got to coach Tim Tebow, Mark Sanchez throughout his career, and obviously coached with Herm Edwards and Eric Mangini. So I can't wait for this interview. And also, he has a book out there. He's an author. He has a book out there called Figure It Out. And he's a cancer survivor too, which is an amazing story out there. So please tune in, fans. You can ask questions today on our Spreaker app to Coach Mike. You can ask whatever questions you want. Fan interactions is always good on the show. But first, Coach Mike, shout out to your rep, Denise, for making this happen. And how are you and your family doing today?
Everybody's great. I'm doing just fine. Thank you. Yeah, Denise is the greatest. She's helped me and with all the social media things, which I was certainly not very adept at. And it's been a big boost for me. So yes, you're absolutely right. She gets the credit.
Yeah. So let's start off with your childhood growing up. What made you get interested in coaching football?
That's an interesting question. By accident, probably. By accident. I loved playing. I played sports when I was a kid, like we all do. I grew up in a city and then moved to a suburb, and I was, football and baseball were our sports. And I played both. I needed a football scholarship to be able to go to college. We didn't really have the means necessary to do that. And so I got it, and that worked for me. I went to graduate school at Indiana University and continued my education. I was helping coach then in the Big Ten. That was my first real coaching. Well, I coached in high school for a couple of years. That was a fun thing. And then in college, when I got my master's degree, my real goal, to tell you the truth, was not to keep on going and coaching, but was to go to law school. And the idea in law school, I was not really interested in being a courtroom lawyer, but taking that degree and applying it to some form of law enforcement, like the FBI or something like that. That's what I thought I'd do. But as I began to coach in college, I got into it and I fell in love with it. And I realized I felt that I could do it pretty well. So I continued with that and went on into college and then the NFL. So it really came about a little bit accidentally, but it's something that once I got going with, I firmly believed that it would be a career for me.
Wow. Yeah. So speaking of coaching, and obviously, who inspired you to coach? Who were some of the coaches from your time that you looked up to while growing up?
That's interesting. It always starts sometime when you're young. I grew up in a very athletic household. My father was a very, very good amateur athlete and held a lot of the city of Pittsburgh passing records, actually, in high school, only to be broken by a guy named Dan Marino, pretty good football player, broke his records. Anyway, my dad was a very good athlete. And so he certainly always encouraged us to follow through with that. And then when in high school, we had a gentleman named Dan Galbraith, coached at a high school I was in outside of Pittsburgh, Bethel Park. We were a very, very good high school athletic program. Had a great basketball. We had maybe the best high school football team in the state. And it was a great experience playing for Dan. He was a real gentleman and a very good coach and got me started. And then in college, I went through, the ups and downs, the goods and the bads. Some coaches kind of inspired me for what the hell they didn't know, to tell you the truth, because I thought they were terrible. and I knew I could do a better job than those guys. And then there were some others that were brilliant that I loved being associated with. And it was a great experience. And then when I got in the NFL, I got in with a guy named Frank Kush, used to be the head coach at Arizona State. He was with the Baltimore Colts in 1982. The way that he ended up hiring me is incredible story. You're going to have to read it. You got to read it. It's a good one. And it was something that I'm very, very proud of. Wow. And then all of a sudden there I am with Don Shula. Now that's the greatest. Because he was really special. I mean, as I wrote about in the book, I thought he was not only the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, he was the head coach of the National Football League. There's nothing that went on that didn't go through him. He was just incredible. He's a great gentleman. He knew the rules. He understood the game. He could coach any position. You know, he's the all-time winningest guy ever. And I was with him for a long time. And that was a great, great experience for me. And that led to some, a couple other moves that I made, which were, they were all had, each one had positive elements to it all the way through the Jets. I was with Herm Edwards and Eric for a while, and then finished with Rex. And then I'd gotten out of coaching and I was working in the media. I did a radio show for ESPN and SMY television. And then all of a sudden the New Orleans Saints called me. I did not really want to go. I didn't know anybody and I didn't know Sean Payton. And then I gave him I said, okay, I can help you. I'll do it. And I loved my relationship in New Orleans. Mickey Lomas is one of the great administrators in sport. And Sean Payton is a Hall of Fame coach. He's outstanding. And I had a great time there. So I've been associated with some very good coaches and some very good football teams. So for me, it was a journey that I loved. And I was very fortunate.
Well, yeah. So we are live with former college NFL coach, special teams coach, Mike Westhoff. Man, what legendary in the game. And we already have a fan question in for you. One of our fans want to know, how close were you choosing the law enforcement? They want to know, how close were you choosing the law enforcement?
That's a good question. That's a very fair question. It's something that I always thought I would enjoy doing. I did. And I would have had to continue with steps education wise. I wasn't prepared. And then after I got going in coaching, then I let go of that other dream and decided that coaching was really where I wanted to go. So I did not take it to the next level. And I know I got my master's degree. I got it in educational psychology. And then I believed I would try to go to law school with getting prepared. But once I started coaching, I got away from that thought and stuck very much with coaching. And I'm very happy that I did that.
Yeah. So speaking of coaching, and obviously you started off coaching high school football. So take us back to that. What was that experience like for you, and teaching these young kids the game of football and making them better and trying to get to their goals? What was that like, coaching high school football?
I was at two high schools in Western Pennsylvania, both very good high schools, Peters Township and Cannon McMillan. We had a number at Peters Township. Our first year we lost 2 games. The next year we went undefeated. And Cannon McMillan, we had a winning season and we had lots of good players. And it's from there I moved into college. So those experiences were good for me. I liked working with the young kids. I enjoyed it. I knew that in a lot of ways I wanted to be challenged a little bit more. And I always dreamed that I would move forward a little bit beyond that. Not that I wasn't satisfied or I looked down on that in any way, because no, that's not the case. In fact, the coaching staff that I worked with at the one high school were 4 of the best guys I think maybe I ever worked with. We had a tremendous time. A gentleman named John Batcha was a head coach, and a big defensive coordinator, Vaughn Bernazzi, Ron Peters, who was a military guy, had been a naval pilot, flew jet aircrafts off of aircraft carriers. So he was jet planes rather. So that was good experiences. And I loved working with the young kids. I loved teaching them and, sticking with them, practicing them, helping them. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. When I look back on it, there were times I wish I could go back and maybe a couple of things that I didn't do as well as I wish. I was more mature and I could have done better. And I'd love to have that. I said, I'd like to go back. I would have done that a little differently. Sometimes, we all look at those mistakes that we've made. But it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun, and it gave me a chance to move in a direction I wanted to go.
Yeah. So what was that? So take us back. So what was that one piece of advice you got from a coach that you've been with or been on coach underneath with? What's that one piece of advice you got throughout your coaching career?
To pinpoint one would be pretty tough. I had about 600 million because I needed that many. I think if I would go back, and I wrote about this, I'll give you one that came. I mean, Don Shula was tremendous because what he taught me, just following his example, and you couldn't pinpoint one because he did so many things well. And the fact that he never, ever, ever, ever stopped learning was something that I learned from Don. But if I had to pinpoint maybe one little piece of advice, it happened uh, very accidentally in my career, my life. I'll tell you part of the story. I won't tell it all because I don't want to give my book away.
No.
But I was coaching at Northwestern in college in about 1988, 89, maybe. My wife and I went on a vacation down to Florida in the Florida Panhandle. And when we were driving back to up through the interstate through Alabama, I told her that I would like to go and visit the University of Alabama, drive over to Tuscaloosa. That back when I was in college, I thought of transferring there. And actually, I wish I had. But anyway, so we did it. And we drive by, we're driving around the campus in Birmingham, or in Tuscaloosa. And I found the field house, parked the car, and I said, I'm just going to go in for a minute. It's an older field house. And I walked in, and it was storied. It just, you saw the Heisman trophies, the national championships. It was just something that was really, I was in awe. And it was an old, dark building. And I'm walking around, everybody was gone. It was late July, everybody was on vacation. And I looked down the hall and there was a light. And I walked down there, and who did I see sitting back at his desk but Bear Bryant? And
Wow.
he looked up and saw me and said, can I help you? And so I walked in, and he said, sit down for a minute, let's talk. And he said that his coaches were on vacation, that he had come in just to do some paperwork, but we sat and talked, and I won't go into all that because that's something you got to read about.
Yeah.
But anyway, he asked me if he could show me around a little bit. And I said, sure. So he got up, he put on his houndstooth hat, and we took a walk around the campus and through the facilities. And again, I'm not going to give everything away, but at the end of the walk, we were coming back. It was a hot day. And he said, do you mind if we rest for a minute? And he was getting older. He had passed not too long after that. And he said, I just get tired. And we sat down on the curb, and he took his hat off and wiped his brow. And we got talking for a while. And he said, Coach, I'm going to give you two pieces of advice. And I won't tell you both, but I'll tell you one. He said, in my career, I've learned, and he said, and I've made this mistake, that I haven't done this at times when I should have been a little bit more readily to implement this. He said, don't be afraid to change. He said, be prepared to change at any moment. He said, football's a game that's always advancing. And he said, and you want to make sure that you keep moving with it. He said, sometimes you really feel comfortable with what you're doing and you love it. But it might not be what you need. Don't be afraid to change. I used that mantra my entire career. And I changed a million times. And I was flexible enough to move back and forth. And that's a piece of advice that came to me very serendipitously, accidentally, sitting on a curb with Bear Bryant in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I mean, that was like, sometimes I look back on things that happened to me, and I'm maybe the luckiest guy that there's ever been, because that was just fortunate. And I only told you part of the story. If you want the whole story.
No. Save it for, actually, you know what? Save it for our fans, because I want my fans to get your book. So save it. It's it.
I'm not going to tell. That's one story. I've got 30 more just like it.
Okay. Yeah, I would rather have the fans read your book too. It's amazing. Your story is really, really amazing. And we have another fan question for you. This is interesting. They want to know, how important is it to be a special teams coach, and how tough can it be sometimes, because the special teams crew could change the game in a heartbeat. It's a game changer. Special teams can come up with a huge play. So how important is it to coach up the special teams and make the right plays during the game?
It's, to me, every job, I used to have a lot of signs in my office. And one of the signs that I had is, a job worth having is a job worth doing well. So I don't think there's a job that's not important. I don't care what it is. Now with special teams, it stays a very important part of the game, although it has been diluted. You just don't have as many plays. That's the reality. A lot of the rule changes that have been safety implemented have made a lot of changes in the game, the kicking game, especially in the NFL. In college, it's pretty much gone. In college, it's gone. They don't have any plays. They have a couple of plays. That's it. In the NFL, they still have them, but not as many. A kickoff now, most kickoffs result in touchbacks. Therefore, the starting field position is the 25-yard line. Offenses move from the 25 to the 50 pretty readily, though you've eliminated a couple punts during the course of a game. I'll give you the number. I'll give it to you pretty accurately. In my first 30 years in the National Football League, my first 30, not counting PATs and field goals, all right, not counting those plays, whether you kick it or defend it. All right, I averaged 22 plays a game, 22 a game. Punts, punt return, kickoff, return. Okay. My last 2 years with the New Orleans Saints, 7.
Oh.
I went from 22 to 7.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not counting the kickoff for a touchback. I mean, I'm 74. I can run down on that thing. Nobody blocks you. Nobody hits you. You just run down the field. Okay. It would take me a while, but I'd get there. The point is, it's just that you don't have the number of variables.
Yeah.
So as a coach, you have to understand that. You have to configure your roster accordingly. You've got to get that. This year, I had a number of first-year head coaches call me, and they wanted to know, Mike, if you were in there today, how would you try to set your roster up? What changes would you go to a particular way? I think it's a very good question. The two guys that asked me that, actually, I look at the rest of them as being dummies that didn't ask me. That's the way I look at it. That's just how I see it. Sorry for those that didn't, but too bad. The ones that were, I think it was brilliant. Anyway, things have changed. You have to be able to be flexible and change with them. You don't have as many plays, but the ones you have, you better highlight and you better know what they're going to be and make it work. Figure it out. That's the key. And you want to be good in the National Football League, you've got to win on every play. But the number of plays, the number of variables has changed. I mean, the game's changed. Yeah. You have to understand that. Rosters are changed. They're configured differently. I think it's sometimes you have to figure out, okay, how does it work for your organization? What's your strength? I mean, the team, in my opinion, right now, looking at the National Football League, the team that's doing that maybe better than anybody else are the Los Angeles Rams. They've kind of figured out what works for them, how to get that handful of great players and make sure you keep them and put them in a position to be successful. And then everybody else kind of contributes a little ways. To me, that's what you have to figure out. I think they've done a pretty good job figuring that out. Because, I mean, when I look at, if I had to bet on who's going to win it this year, I'd put my money on the Rams again. That's just me. I'm not saying, I don't know. Do I know any more than anyone else? No, I don't. But I just look at what they've done and how they win. And there's only a couple kind of teams that can. I mean, one of the teams that to me is a good matchup for them is San Francisco, because San Francisco's figure out how to control the ball against them and keep that high-powered offense on the bench. And now they've got a close game, and that's how the 49ers have been able to gain a little edge against them. But everybody can't do that, and that's what I think football's about: figuring out what you have, make it work.
Yeah, so I want to go back to your college days. You coached obviously Indiana and in the Big Ten, and obviously a lot of things are changing pretty soon in the Big Ten. 2024, 2 more teams are joining the Big Ten. So what was it? Take us back to your college days. What was the experience like there and coaching in the Big Ten? And what are your thoughts on today's now big changes coming?
Oh, wow, that's really, when I started, I was in Indiana as a graduate assistant, and then they had a rule that limited the number of people on a coaching staff. So after I was there, got my master's degree and coached a couple of years there, I went to the University of Dayton. Now, Dayton at the time was playing Division I, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was tough because we really didn't have the resources to compete at that level. So they dropped to a Division III and became a very good Division III program. This is what they should have done. I left, went 1 year to Indiana State, and then went up to Northwestern. When I was at Northwestern, that was a difficult job because of the fact that, we were competing against the big boys, Ohio State with Woody Hayes and Michigan, Bo Schembechler, et cetera, Hayden Fry out at Iowa. It was tough. I think we've been competing at the way that's set up today with the smaller number of scholarships. We could have gotten the 2 or 3 players a year that we would lose to Michigan or Ohio State. Now, if you put those 2 or 3 or 4 guys together over 3 years, we'd have been a doggone good football team because we did some good things. But, it was a different time. But it was fun and it was very challenging. A different type of football. Ohio State was, 3 yards in a cloud of dust with Bo and Woody and the way they pounded each other. But it was a great learning experience. and I enjoyed every part of it, the recruiting, etc. I left there and went to Texas Christian for a
Mhm.
year. I was there, and that was again a good experience because I had some good football players. I mean, we beat Arkansas that when I was there. I think they were number one ranked in the nation when we beat them, but they were right. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, and then left there and went in the NFL. But the way colleges have changed today, with the money that's available to players, I'm not opposed to it
Mhm.
because I see coaches make so much, and the players contribute, and I want to see them get their fair share. I think you've got to get some type of umbrella around it so it doesn't get out of control. I mean, I had a friend that left a very good team in college. I won't tell you the team, but
Mhm.
trust me, they're as good as they get. And he went in the NFL, back into the NFL. And before he left, he was recruiting a young man. He walked into his house and sat down. And the first question the parents asked him was, "Well, how much are you going to pay us?"
Hmm.
He told me, he said, "I'll never coach another day in college football." He said, "I'm done. I don't
Hmm.
want to deal with it." He said, I want to come into a home. Yes. Is there going to be some money involved? I'm sure there will be. But I want to talk about your education. I want to talk about your chances to go into the National Football League and what I can do. That. And so he said, "I'll never coach another down in college football." He said, "I don't want to deal with it." Between that and the transfer portal, when you start putting that all together, you've changed the dynamics of the sport. How's it going to be controlled? That I have, I don't know. I'm not sure. And now you've added the teams to the Big Ten. So what you're doing is you're creating super conferences.
Mhm.
These are the big boys. And what'll happen, in my opinion, you'll have those, like the Southeast is, loaded, and they've got, Texas and Oklahoma coming in now. Okay, what's going to happen to the ACC with Clemson, Miami, and Florida State? Are they going to leave? Are they going to go somewhere else? How's this all going to work? And what you're doing, you're changing that dynamic. Somewhere, somehow, they've got to get a handle on all of it so that it gets under control, or it'll spiral
Yeah.
out of control and it'll be a mess. And I know there's so much money involved, and that's a big part of it. I have zero answers to the problem. And I don't profess to do so. I don't know enough, but I do know enough to be a fan, and I love to watch college football. And so I'm hoping that they can get it keep it under control. I think the playoffs you'll see expanded. I'm in favor of that.
Mhm.
There's some pretty good teams that you
Yeah.
want to see, but yet at the same time, you don't necessarily have college football. It's got to go for 15 games. I mean, come on.
Mhm.
It's a different deal. And so, what you're turning it into, the NFL, and it's not the NFL, because the vast, vast majority of those college football players are not going to National Football League.
Wow.
The numbers are minuscule.
Yeah.
We used to use a number of about 1% of football players that start playing end up in the NFL. That's it.
That's-
It's a very low number. And so I hope they can just get it under control and understand what's going to happen. I don't want to see it spiral and wreck everything, including, wreck some of the other sports. I mean, you start taking money. Well, how much does girls basketball get paid? I mean, I don't know. You tell me.
Mhm.
These are all questions that I think have to be looked at, and have to be. Um, I love it. I love watching it. I'm a big fan. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it destroyed. I don't think that can happen. I think there's some cool heads that are get on top of it all and come up with a method. But there's some pretty good coaches that have discussed some of the problems that are existing. And I think they're no dummies. They know what they're talking about. Yes, the money is an incredible factor. I hope it works out.
Mhm. Yeah, me too. And it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. And we have another fan question for you. Someone wants to know about when you had cancer, and they want to know how tough is it for you being away from the game, not coaching, and dealing with the cancer, and they want to know, how did you overcome it, and how grateful are you to be able to come back like this?
Okay, it's for me, it's been very much in the past. The cancer part, so being away from it and having to deal with it now is not a problem for me, thank God. That was in 1988
Well,
that I was diagnosed, and so I've been great with that. Now I've had a series of surgeries because mine was bone cancer,
Oh,
in
wow.
my leg. And then I had a number of with grafts, they call them allografts,
Hmm.
and I kept breaking them. So that required quite a number of surgeries. Not easy to break it now because it's all metal, but I've gone through quite a bit with it. What I learned, and early on, I was 40 when this all happened to me. It came out of nowhere. I didn't expect it. I was shocked. I thought I'm in good health. I don't smoke. I drink very little. How's this happening to me? And so I had to work through it. I don't think I did anything any more or any less heroic than thousands of people deal with every day.
Hmm.
It's part of our lives. And the research and the medical expertise that has gone into it is incredible. I was fortunate. I was with some of the best doctors, not only in the country, but maybe in the world. One of the guys that invented the surgery I had, another guy at Sloan Kettering, he's the best that's ever done it. So I was in good hands. I learned early on, if I had to give anybody one piece of advice, don't let it define your life. You're still the same person. You might not look the same. You sure don't feel the same. I lost all my hair. I had to use a cane, and I'm coaching the National Football League. And I used to be pretty athletic. I could do things and contribute I could be involved in drills. I could throw in receiving drills. I could do all that. All of a sudden, here I am walking around with a cane. Um, don't let it define your life. Figure it out. Know who you are and just keep pushing. Push to be that person. Now, there's some days you're not going to be that guy. You don't feel very good. You feel like you're going to spend the whole day getting sick to your stomach. I learned to live with it. I'd go out on the field. I'd walk to the far end of the field and I'd throw up in the grass.
Hmm.
I'd rinse my mouth out. I'd go back in and go to work.
Wow.
I did that nearly every day for a year.
Hmm.
And I just kept going. People don't know. And when I had to coach with what I dealt with, everything's like it was fractured. I had grafts holding me together. I coached 1 year part of the time that I would wear sweatpants or something because I had a catheter
Hmm.
until I solved that problem and got that straightened out. But you just learn to live with things and figure it out. And I did that. And I'm proud that I did it, but I had big help. I had great help from my family, from my friends. My son was incredible to me. I had a girlfriend named Patty that really got involved and helped me and did so many good things for me back in those days. And so sometimes we're all a product of our environment. And I very much was. Though I was unfortunate in what I had, fortunate in who I had helping me and how I was able to deal with it. And I worked through it and never missed anything and just kept going. And
Wow.
so, was it easy running around the field on a cane or on crutches? No, it wasn't, but I did it. And I didn't care. I started, if you read my book, there's a prologue
Mhm.
and it describes how I set goals for me in my life and coaching career that started as I was a patient in a cancer center. You've got to read it though. You've got to read it to see it.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. So tell our fans some of your best moments as a coach in the NFL. Obviously, you coach with the Colts, Jets, Miami Dolphins, and and also tell us about, like, some of your best moments and best games that you had as a coach.
I started with the Colts and I got into it by accident, special teams, because I was a strength coach, a tight ends coach,
Mhm.
assistant offensive line. And all of a sudden I took on special teams. I knew nothing about it. The guy whose place I took, I used his notebook. It should have come with crayons. It's the worst notebook I ever saw. So I wrote one. I wrote it and I figured it out. I learned how to do it. And so I started there. Then, of course, when I was at the Miami Dolphins, I was involved with the Don Shula and Dan Marino, and I developed a good group. It took us a little time.
Mhm.
There were some, people that I got involved with. Bernie Parmalee. In fact, I just talked to him on the phone a little while ago. Was a great player for me. And now he's a running back coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But anyway, that's a good story. And then some of the groups I had at Miami, we were really special. O.J. McDuffie was a great player
Yes.
for me. I had Reggie Roby, the great punter. Pete
Mhm.
Stoyanovich was a great kicker. I
Wow.
had an all-star team. Larry Izzo, we signed. O.J. Brigance, tremendous gentleman. just and a great player. So I think I was part of a team at the end of the 1990s that was the best special teams team in the league and one of the best overall in history. We were really good. We were special. I had a good group of guys, and actually had a year, my last year there in 2000, that you could argue it's the best special teams year that anybody's ever had. I mean, I'm easy to argue because I'm cocky. So I mean, I don't care. And do I see others and accept it? Yes, I do. I do. And one thing, people should note, I'm gonna say that I want to mention this to you. Part of my book, on the cover of my book, it talks about me, and it gives a preview of the book, and it has as he revolutionized special teams in the NFL.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. That didn't come from me. Oh, do I believe it? Yes, I kind of believe it. I know there were others that were right there with me. I know that. That's the book as the publishers, as they read the book, then they capitalize. They incapitalize it. So they're going to go through and kind of do a preview. Though some of those things people would think that I just am being arrogant, and I'm not. I'm really not. That's not those that didn't come from me. I wrote every word. The quotes came from others: Roger Goodell, Sean Payton, Rex Ryan, the players. There's numerous players. We interviewed the players. That's from them. So when someone read, especially, and I'm giving this speech to my compatriots, my fellow peers, they're going to think I was more arrogant than they thought I was. That's really not. That didn't come from me, guys. Not that I don't believe it, but it didn't come from me. But those were good. Then I went up to the New York Jets. And over time, we put together a really good group. I thought our opening game in 2002, when we went up and played Buffalo, we beat them in overtime. We ran 2 kickoff returns. Chad Morton, who's the running back coach of Seattle Seahawks now, we ran 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns, one during the game and one in overtime. So, that was back before you had that, both teams get a chance. We ran a touchdown, game was over. That could easily be argued that was best special teams game ever played in history, because everything we did looked like a clinic. So, and then, the opening game of the 2011 season, the 10th anniversary of 9/11, with George Bush, President Bush was at the game. They had the biggest flag I ever saw. There's never been a bigger one. Everybody knew it was quintessential New York. It was just done tremendously. Anybody that was anybody was at the game. We played Dallas on a Sunday night.
Wow.
We beat them in a great football game. Very well played, greatly officiated. We blocked a punt to tie the game, and then had a chance at the end to kick a field goal, and we did, and won the football game. That was a tremendous game to be a part of, that I'll always. So those are some of the memories. And so, and then my first 10 years at the New York Jets, we're in the playoffs like 60% of the time. I mean, we were good. We were a good team. We went to 2 AFC championship games. And I had, during that period of time, I had nine different guys that led the National Football League in returns.
Wow.
Nobody's touching that record because you don't have the plays today. I didn't have Devin Hester. I had a sign in my office. Told you I had good signs. And one of the signs said, "You can't win with the players you don't have." Okay, I don't have Devin Hester. Well, guess what? I had Santana Moss, and I had Leon Washington, and I had Justin Miller, and I had Brad Smith, and I had Joe McKnight, and I had all these guys, and they all led the league. We figured it out. We had great players, great blockers. I believe my scheme was the best. And so, you can't win. I didn't have Devin, and I would have loved to have him. But when he played against me, he didn't run across the street. So you look at however you want. That's the truth. So I'm proud of what we did with what we had. I'm extremely proud of it.
So speaking of the Dallas, I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan. Actually, my father, he brought me up as a Cowboy fan, and a lot of players or people we had on the show, they always bring up playing against the Cowboys is one of their favorite memories. And we have another fan question for you. Speaking of teams, what was the toughest stadium you guys had to play in as a coach?
That's an interesting question. I'm going to give you two ways. One is because the fan base is so difficult, and they were always a good team. I have to pick three places because they were pretty equal in my mind. New Orleans, and then when I went to the Saints, I was part of the benefit of that because that is a great home stadium.
Yeah.
That's loud. You can't hear. The fans are great, and the team's good. All right. Kansas City is very similar to that. I never won at Kansas City. I think it's the only stadium I never won a game in.
Oh, wow.
I didn't play there too often, but they're a good football team, and fan base is incredible. And then Seattle. Now I have won at Seattle, but not very often. And their fan bases, those are tough places to play. I have tremendous respect for those stadiums because they're hard to hear. The fans are great. The absolute worst place to play was Oakland. Now I loved to play at Oakland because I had great games at Oakland. I mean, I used to beat Oakland like they were. I mean, I used to beat the heck out of Oakland. I loved going out there. We had great games.
Wow.
Some of my most favorite games as a coach. But and their fans were very loyal. I will not disrespect the loyalty of their fans, but that could be a crummy place to go. I mean, I remember I walked on the field. You got to read this in the book now because I can't use this language. I walked on the field and I had my cane, and they knew me because I had always had good games there, and they were yelling at me, Westhoff, da 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 da, and they were calling me cripple, and I'll let the rest of it go. I won't rephrase the rest. You got to read the book. And of course, I answered not quite as graphically, but no, I'm not a saint when I come back at you. But that was the worst place there. Even though I remember going up to Buffalo, we had, that was so tough to play, and the fans could be tough, but I respected it. I mean, they were good fans up there. They supported them. The same way with New England. They're great fans in their stadium. So those Pittsburgh. Those play. I mean, I used to want to kill them when I came out of there, but their fans are great. You got to respect that. But the real tough places that you can hardly hear are those three I mentioned. And the worst was that freaking crazy Oakland.
Wow.
I mean, that place, some of the stuff. I would never let my family members that were coming to visit, I would never let them go to a game there. I said, no, not there. You want to watch it on TV because that place was nuts. And I didn't, even though I respect how loyal they were, I get that. And I went out to Las Vegas this past year and watched them. And that's a tremendous place, beautiful stadium, great fan base. And I had the deepest respect for Al Davis. He offered me several jobs, and I wanted to go. I was going to go because I liked him and I respected him. I just admire him. But and I wouldn't mind coaching there because I liked how tough they were. But that fans, whoa, they were no fun.
Yeah. So speaking of the Jets, obviously you spent a lot of years there, and obviously with Herman Edwards, Eric Mangini, Mark Sanchez, Tim Tebow, a lot of great players you had as a coach. And what was that like just to be part of that team and obviously have great talented players? And we had the opportunity. We talked to Mark Sanchez on our show 2 years ago, and it was an honor talking to him. And obviously took you guys to 2 AFC Championship games. And this explain the atmosphere there with the fans in New York and being in New York.
I loved it. Yeah. I loved it. It was, when I look back, I can easily say that those were maybe the best years of my life. I loved it. The fans were great. We had a good team. We walked into a good football team. Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, they know how to build a team now.
Yeah.
And those guys are pretty smart. And they put together a very good football team. We don't forget we had, Curtis Martin was a pretty good running back. We had an offensive line, Kevin Mawai. I mean, they're both wearing gold jackets. Vinny Testaverde was our quarterback. Wayne Corbett, Santana Moss, and guys on defense, Mo Lewis, Aaron Glenn was a great player for us. Jonathan Vilma, great linebacker that we had in those days, and John Abraham, Ellis. It was just a good football team, that we were part of. And we got it going. We kind of turned it around. The one year, we brought in, Chad Pennington became our quarterback and did a very good job with Lavernius Coles and those guys. They were good. They were good. We were good teams. Now we were fighting New England, who was exceptional. But it was a good competition. We got going. Herm ran out of gas a little bit. He really was, he did a lot of good things. He did some very good things with the players. He was not terribly well prepared for the head coaching role, especially on the field with, timeouts, things like that. His clock management, that wasn't a real strength. He got better. He got better at it. I'll say that for him, but that wasn't, and I don't like how many people he fired. He fired way too many. I should have done a better job in getting involved there. I didn't do as good a job as I should have. I don't know if I could have prevented it, to tell you the truth, but that wasn't, I don't look at that as one of my finer moments of trying to help him the way I should have. I mean, I was assistant head coach. I should have prevented some of that, and I did not. And you could argue in his career, he's fired more people than anybody in history. History. He might have to go back to Genghis Khan. Didn't fire as many as him. He's still done it. And that's discouraging because he did so many things well. And I liked him. He's a good person. But he just look at his career. I mean, I'm going to tell you, figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
That I was discouraged. Eric Mangini got more criticism than he deserved. There's some things he did very well. He had a way of being irritating. He sometimes was condescending to the players, and he stepped on some toes. But he knew how to build a football team. He learned a lot from Bill Belichick. Did he try to become Bill? I don't know that. It's pretty hard to do. Sometimes that guy's kind of got his own gear there. Eric was very good with situations. He did a nice job with that. I felt his last year when we signed Brett Favre. We signed Brett, and at one point in time we were 8-3, and then Brett got hurt, and we ended up 9-7. And Brett and they fired Eric. I don't believe he should have been fired. I think that was a mistake. Now, maybe he just stepped on some toes. I don't know. I don't know enough to say. Now then they hired Rex. I think that was a very good move. Rex was a good coach that deserved it. I liked him a lot. I really enjoyed it. His kind of craziness that he, the media would, Rex would say things, sometimes. But believe me, none of that manifested itself into our team. We had a disciplined, good team. We didn't have off the field problems. Rex did a nice job with that stuff. He was good at it, and we had fun, and he had a great coaching staff. I mean, he inherited and he kept the guys. Anthony Lynn was our running back coach. Bill Callahan had the offensive line. Mike Pettin. These guys are all been NFL head coaches now. I had the special teams, and Ben Kotwika, my assistant, he was a coordinator at 3 teams. So, we had a good group, and we had good players. I mean, go back and think of our offensive line. You wonder why we could run the ball. Okay. Well, we got the Brigashaw Ferguson, Nick Mangold.
Yeah.
Oh, Alan Faneca's playing guard. He's in the Hall of Fame. Damian Woody. Oh, and this guy carrying the ball, LaDainian Tomlinson. He's got one of those gold jackets. That's who we had. And now Mark was the quarterback. Mark receives way more criticism than he deserves. The fact that people made such a big deal out of that butt fumble thing.
Yeah.
He ran into the guy and fumbled the ball. It happens. Mark, is Mark Tom Brady? No, he's not. He's not. But he was a manageable quarterback with that type of offense that we could win games with. Now, all of a sudden, you have to call Mike Tannenbaum and ask him why. Because we lost, 14 players or something like that. And we couldn't keep on our salary. So we didn't have that figured out. And all of a sudden, we're going to change the type of team we are. Well, we went to 2 AFC championships. We weren't the sexiest team, but we were tough. We played great defense. Remember, we had Darrelle Revis, Tonio Cromartie, Bart Scott. We had all those guys. I had an all-star team. Leon Washington, Brad Smith, Eric Smith, James Ahitabo. Come on, we'd knock your head off. We were really good. It was fun. That's who we were. And all of a sudden, we're letting Alan Faneca go, and we're bringing in Plexico Burris. I guess I don't understand it. I mean, you tell me how well it worked. I can tell you it didn't work at all. And so it was discouraging. And we went from being a championship game team to a team that doesn't even know what the playoffs look like in the last whatever years. Because I know one thing, since I left, they haven't been back. So say however you want. So I know I had something to do with it. And I know I get accused of being cocky, but at the same time, I'm giving you I'm sorry, I have to turn that off.
Oh,
Sorry. Anyway, it's just it was a fun team to be a part of, and we were good.
yeah,
You know, and Thomas Jones, a running back. I mean,
yeah.
how he was really good. You know, we could go up to New England and beat them. Could we do it every week? Probably not, because I mean they were great. You know, Tom Brady, he's pretty good now. That guy's tough to beat. There aren't too many of him, uh, but we could do it because we were a good team. You know, we could. You know, remember when we went to Pittsburgh and yeah, we lost the championship game, but don't forget earlier in the year we went in there and beat them to get into playoffs. We beat them in a great game. So it was a fun team to be a part of. I love the fans. I wish we could have taken them to the next level. I mean, I'm really disappointed in that. Of course, I didn't get to go either.
Mhm.
But I love them. I love being with the Jets. I love being in New York. The fans were the greatest. It was a tremendous time in my life and something that I'll always be very, very proud of. Very proud.
Yeah, so we also had on our show we also talked to Mike Tannenbaum and Tony Cromartie, and they it was an honor talking to them, and they told amazing stories when they were at the Jets also, and you guys had a great coaching staff, great front office, and great team too at that time. And but we have another fan question for you. They want to know where can they find your book to figure
Yeah,
it out.
it comes out. It comes out this Tuesday, July 12th. You can get it anywhere: Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Target, anywhere. Now you can also always get it through the publisher. The publisher is Mascot, Mascot, mascotbooks.com.
Yeah.
You go to Mascot Books. In the search, you punch in the book's title, figure it out. Figure it out's the title. They'll deliver it to your house. They'll do it. You can get it anywhere. Uh, so it's going to be everywhere. July 12th, and through the publisher right now. You can call today and order it today, and you'd have it. So it'll be out. It'll be in. You can get it on your iPad through Amazon. You can get the audio copy. In fact, I recorded it. I spent 3 weeks in a studio really working on it. I read it, and I think I did a pretty good job. I'm proud of it. And it's a good story. It's not the $160 million quarterback. No disrespect, but that's not it. It's the guy that came out of nowhere, that contributed viably, helped teams win games. It took us at the New York Jets and helped us get in the playoffs. I'll argue that forever. And I believe it put us in. That's what I believe. I'm supposed to believe that because that's what I did. And those guys changed the game. We changed the game. Now, a lot of changes have taken place, and it's changed back in a lot of ways. So it went to a pinnacle. It'll never get there again. And it was a great fun time, and it was a fun time for me to be a part of and to write about. And I'm proud of the book. I like the way we did it. A guy named Barry Wilner, who's a writer, helped me. Now, he didn't write it. I wrote every word, but he conducted the interviews. I would set them up, and he would call Leon Washington. And then you're going to hear me tell the story, and then you're going to hear Leon Washington tell the story. So that's what I think, where the book is a little bit different than most books do. And I like the way we did that. And I like hearing it. I like hearing what they had to say. And trust me, it's, it's not X-rated, but it's rated. It's just told how they lived it. And that's the way I let everybody know I would not edit it. And I didn't see a lot of times what they even said until it was integrated into the print. And I think that was a very fair way to do it. And so I couldn't be more proud of this book. And I think for, the $20 or whatever it is you spend, a hard copy is a little more expensive, but that's pretty cool. As you get a hard copy, I'll sign it. And I think it's a really good investment, and people have enjoyed it. And it's a good story about good people. And that's what I think it should be about. And I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah, we'll definitely check it out. And our fans, you guys need to definitely check out the book and try and get it for yourself and read the story. And we'll definitely check it out. And for you, what's it been like now, seeing the game from a different side of it, not coaching anymore? And obviously, you had a radio station on ESPN. Obviously, you were on Michael K's show a bunch of times. I've seen your interviews with them; they're amazing. And also, what's it been like for you now, just to see the game from a different aspect? And what are your thoughts on the upcoming season?
Good, interesting question. It's asked in a good way also. Um, when I worked with the media, that was a different deal because, I was very much still involved with the Jets and I knew them very well. So I went up to New York every week and I did a Sunday morning radio show with Anita Marks, who I have tremendous respect for her. She's really a good journalist. And then Chris Canty, we did the show one year and he's another very bright man, very smart, good player, Virginia graduate, and has had a very nice media career. And our show was good. We had a good show. And then I worked for SMY doing the television. And I thought that was really fun with Ray Lucas, who's one of my favorite people. Ray's a New York guy. He went to Rutgers. He played with the Jets, and he was a good player. And Damian Woody, we did the show. Chad Cascadden, he was on the show. And Janae Coakley did the stuff. And it was a fun show to be a part of. And I really enjoyed it. So, that's when I would really study everything. I would study all the statistics, so I could really get involved. And I worked hard at doing that. Now, and then I went back to work with the Saints and then came back. I didn't want to continue with the media. Obviously during the pandemic, nobody wanted to travel, though that was out. And so I got away from it. Now I'm a fan. I'm just a fan. And I'm probably the biggest fan would be the Jets and the Saints. They're my last two. The Dolphins have changed so dramatically that I haven't swung back there yet, to tell you the truth. Although I love a lot of the players, and I was just at one of their practices, and I saw a pretty good football team. They thought I was a little critical of them because I saw an offensive practice I wasn't enamored with, but I think they're pretty good coaches doing a good job, and so I think they're going to be pretty good. But the Jets, it's hard not to be. I love Woody Johnson, what he did for me. I'll always be a fan. I think the Jets, this is my opinion, I could be wrong because I'm no expert. I think they're the best prepared to go into a season than I've seen them in 10 years. I think this team if I were a Jets fan, I'd have some hopes up a little bit. Now, I'm going to caution that some because that beginning part of the schedule is really tough. Whoa, wow. Thanks a lot, Roger. That's a tough one. But if they can get through that with a couple losses, I think they have a chance to fight for a winning record. I do. It won't be easy, but if they can be competitive early and hang in there and get maybe a couple wins or so, look out. And I think this Jet team is a pretty good looking football team. So I'm expecting pretty good things from these guys. And I'm really rooting for them because I think they've done some nice things. I like some of their draft picks. I kind of believe in the quarterback. I think they've got to help them a little bit. I think the offensive coordinator will mature a little. Together, I think we'll see some things. And I don't know. It could be interesting. So I root for them. I'm a big Saints fan because I was there. I love those guys. Mickey, I know Dennis Allen. He was there when I was there, so I'm happy for him. Taysom Hill's one of my all-time favorite players. They were a great organization. Though I always go down and go to a game or two. And I'm a fan though. I love to watch the games. The game has changed.
Yeah.
I think a team that took an interesting draft pick, in my opinion, which is a good pick with the way the game's being played today. I think the young man from Oregon that the New York Giants took with their first pick.
Kayvon Thibodeau. Yep.
I think that is a home run. Now, is that guy going to be Lawrence Taylor? No, he's not. It's a different game. But his first two steps off the ball, it looks like he got shot out of a cannon. Now, today's game is fast break football.
Yeah.
And if you got a guy, if I were going to go against him back in the day, see, when I was with the Jets and we had that, that offensive line I mentioned, I'd try to pound the guy. I'd say, we're going to pound him. You're going to face Damon Woody all day. Yeah. Good luck, buddy. He weighs about 330. He benches about 900.
Yeah.
Good luck. But the way the game's played today, whoa, this guy can wreck the game. He can wreck the game. So, I think that's what you have to do in this day and age.
Yeah.
Figure it out. You've got to get that handful of players that can dominate and everybody else contribute. The teams that can do that, they're on top. They're going to be on top. I still think the Rams are at the head of that list, in my opinion. We'll see.
Yeah.
But, anytime, anytime Aaron Rodgers is at Green Bay, you got to know they're pretty good. And Buffalo's really a good football team. The AFC's loaded with quarterbacks. Cincinnati, Buffalo, Kansas City, Denver now. Well, wait a minute. These guys are all pretty good. They're pretty good. So I think it's a lot to look forward to as a fan. And yes, it's changed. Do I see a lot of the kicking game stuff that I used to see? I do not. I don't. I'm disappointed in that. And I'd love to see it come back a little bit, but it doesn't wane my enthusiasm for the game. It just makes me feel fortunate the time that I was in.
Yeah. So, I mean, the AFC West alone is going to be loaded with all the quarterbacks there. So it's going to be fun to watch the AFC. And for you, speaking of the Saints, it's not going to be the same without Drew Brees and Sean Payton for this year. But it's going to be interesting to see how they do as a team with the new coach. I mean, they went in-house with Dennis Allen, so they kept it in-house. But it's going to be interesting to see how the new era of the Saints football is going to be. And speaking of the Saints, did you get to watch the Kevin James movie?
Say it again, please.
Speaking of the Saints, did you get to watch the Kevin James movie?
No, I did not.
Oh no, there's a movie you should definitely check out. Kevin James, the actor, he acts as Sean Payne.
Oh, I know what you're referring to. I just didn't get a chance to see it yet. Oh, I will. Okay. I will. Oh, I plan on seeing it. I know all about it. I mean, I know when he did it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. So no, I want to do that. I think I think the Saints are still going to be pretty good. That defense is arguably one of the top 4 or 5 in the league.
Yeah,
they're good. They're good, and they're going to be good. When you're that good on defense and you're playing in that environment, I think Winston has a chance. I thought he was doing very well before he got hurt last year. So I got to know him a little bit from being down there and talking to him several times. And to tell you the truth, for someone I didn't know, I was very impressed. I was impressed with him. He's a smart young man, and I kind of like what he did with his career. He came out. He had those tough years at Tampa, and he had some decisions to make. And what he did, he signed at Miami. Of course, they've got Drew Brees, so he goes to Miami, and with Drew Brees and Sean Payton, you just enrolled in a Harvard graduate school of quarterbacks. That's what you just did, and that's what he did, and he learned. And I just was impressed with what I saw of how he had developed. And I had gone to training camp. I'd gone to a couple games, and I thought he was really headed in the right direction. And then he got hurt, and that's a shame. But if he can bounce back, that team. So I have faith in them, and I'm going to keep it.
So we'll take one more fan question. One of our fans want to know: is there a chance that you come back in the league if the right opportunity comes for you?
No and yes. There's only one possibility. I will not tell you. Okay. And it came actually relatively in the possibility, but no. In so many ways, most of the ways, no, because it's changed so much. And so much of what I've done, you can't do any longer. And I loved all the things that I could do. I loved the variables. I don't like them being eliminated. I don't like the 7. I used to have 12 kickoff returns because I knew I was going to run them all. And we did all the double teaming and trapping and moving and all. And I love that drawing and that creativity. That's gone. And that doesn't interest me. There's only one possibility that I would maybe give someone a hand until they got it going. And then I'd go back out again. I would leave. But so the answer to that really technically is probably no.
So before we get to the last two things, I want to get your thoughts on the NFL made history this week with the Las Vegas Raiders. Actually, Al Davis made history. Mark Davis made history hiring the first African American female, Sandra Douglas. Sandra Douglas as the first African female president for the team. What are your thoughts on that?
That's interesting. I didn't know much about her until I looked her and I read her background. Whoa, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, she's worked her way through the system. She's a very impressive background and prepares her. I think she'll be fine. I'm not the least bit surprised that type of move would happen. And I think that under those circumstances, someone that has worked their way up in business, that direction, to me, get that opportunity, I think it's well-deserved. And I believe that don't forget, it was Al Davis way back when that hired, it was Amy.
Amy Trask.
Yeah, Amy Trask. That was way back when. Al was way ahead of his time. He was a brilliant football man. Brilliant. And I told you, I had a relationship with him. He offered me a couple jobs, and I used to love talking to him because it was like talking to a textbook. I mean, he was really good. Now he was really good, and so this move does not surprise me. It doesn't. And when I went out to Vegas, I went out to a game right at Christmas. They played Denver. I thought the city was tremendous for the Raiders. I mean, everywhere you went, there was Raider Nation signs. I mean, they were thousands of people were walking over that bridge going to the stadium. It was pretty cool. Beautiful stadium and great support. So I think she'll fit in, and they're going to be pretty good. They've got a good base. I would think it'll lead to big things.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. And the last two things, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's now coaching at Grambling State University. We're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, everybody stays safe. So we'll send you the foundation so you and Denise can check it out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
And
I wish them the best. That's a pretty good goal to have.
Yeah, it's still horrible out there what we're seeing, and we need to stop it now. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
They're the greatest.
Yeah.
They're the greatest. I mean, I have the deepest respect. The deepest respect. And I was a very, very active recipient. I mean, I was in some of the very difficult situations, and I owe my life to those people. They gave me a chance to continue, and I have the deepest respect, and we all should have for them, and support them in any way, financially, anything that we can to keep that going, because is the basis. I mean, there's no one that, it seems like every time I get a phone call, it's from a friend that's going through something different, and they're talking about, okay, what do we do? And I was the luckiest guy ever. I came through very difficult circumstances and lived and have lived and continue, and plan on continuing, by the way. I don't plan on changing anything soon. A very good life. And they enabled me to keep going in a profession that without that kind of help, I could have never done it.
Yeah, so before we close it out, would you like to plug anything to our fans and where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, well, we have to. Denise has me everywhere.
Okay.
I have this much knowledge of social media. I knew nothing. Though she came to me and was a friend actually with a gal that works for Merrill Lynch that does my finances, and said, I've read your book. I can help you. She said, you need to get into social media. I said, well, yeah, good luck, because I don't even know how to turn it on. She said to me, I can push a button and get you in touch with thousands of people. And she said, I'll make you a bet you don't even know where the button is. I started to laugh. I said, you're pretty smart, because I don't. And so she's really helped me. And it opened up an avenue that I didn't know existed. And like I tease you guys all the time, guys like because you're creating your own radio station.
Yeah.
That's what you are. You guys you're the miniature ESPN.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, from these podcasts that I've done, you guys, and I'll just include you in a group. Now, some are better than others. I'll put you on that positive side. Have done a very good job. You ask good questions. You stir up interest. You let people get involved, and you help. You help promote a really interesting aspect of the media. So I take my hat off to you. You've done a good job. Now, like we found out, sometimes getting plugged in is not the easiest thing, but I'm learning. I'm learning slowly, and I'm extremely appreciative. And it's been a lot of fun for me. And I think of all the ones that I've done, I can only think one time when I was a little bit disappointed in the way they handled it or asked things. Everything else, you've been off the charts, and you've done a very good job, and I'm appreciative. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. Like I said, shout out to Denise. She's amazing, and she answered pretty quickly when my team reached out to her. And you're the legend of the NFL. I mean, you're the GOAT. You should be in the Hall of Fame. We got to get you into the Hall of Fame too, Mike.
No, I'm going to argue. I'll argue against it, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. And I appreciate what you said. I think to get in as a coach or a general manager, to get in, you have to be a head coach and have that many variables as a coach. I don't believe that I had enough variables that I excelled at to warrant me going into the Hall of Fame. Now, if the Hall of Fame has like an auxiliary part and they have like a trailer out back, then I should get in that one. They got a little trailer in the back with a little picture. I'll take that one.
Yeah.
But that's just how I feel. And so no disrespect. I appreciate what you said. And I think I did what I did at a very high level. And I don't think anybody did it much better than me. And so that regard, I feel very confident in. But as a coach, I believe to get into Hall of Fame, you need to be a head coach. That's just how I feel. And I should have had that opportunity. I didn't. I'm disappointed I didn't, because I think in one instance, it was a travesty that I didn't, but it didn't happen. So it's not the end of the world. I respect those that are in, and I appreciate your saying that. Though if they do have a little auxiliary part with a couple of trailers, I'm going in that. I'll be that one out back.
Yeah, but there you have it. That wraps up episode 1027 with the special teams coach from the NFL, Mike Westhoff. He coached with the Jets, Dolphins, Colts, and also coached in college and also high school football. So he's done it all. Go check him out on social media. He has a book out there called Figure It Out. Go, and fans, please go check that book out. Please buy it. It's a great story. And thank you to our fans, by the way, for tuning in and asking great questions. Also being involved. We always love fan interaction on the show. But thank you again, Coach, for coming on. Like I said, and we would love to have you back on the show down the line so you can meet the full team. But keep up the great work, and your story is amazing. I learned a lot today, and keep it up. And thank you again.
Yeah, maybe after you've taken a look at the book, the teams are in training camp. That they're in training camp, and you've kind of got things going, and you've read the book, and you want specific things. Come back to us. We'll come back on. I'd be happy to do it. I'd be honored to do it.
Yep. Thank you. And we got to meet in person too one day.
No, that'd be fine. Yeah. Maybe we'll come to training camp. I'm trying to come to New York. If I want to come up there, maybe we'll catch you at training camp. But again, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You did you did a good job. You guys are good.
Thank you.